This is Anthony from All Metal Music. I'm on the phone with Cam Lee from Bone Gnawer. How have you been?
I'm good, man. Just doing interviews all day, actually. Down to my, I think my fifth beer right now.
You don't sound pretty drunk, so I guess you can keep them down.
Yeah, it's just it's Heineken, so I'm pretty much used to it.
Heineken's hit me like a ton of bricks. The press reaction for Feast of Flesh has been pretty positive. How satisfied are you with the final product?
Oh, I'm really happy with it, and this is probably my favorite album I've ever done. Actually, I mean, all together, I'm really proud of this album. Sound-wise, material-wise, the packaging, the way it came out, this is probably the best album I've ever personally been involved with, and best band. So I'm really happy with the reaction that it's getting. It's getting a really good, solid reaction, and it's actually a lot better than I anticipated, which is surprising. It's always surprising when, it would have been disappointing if I expected more and got less, but I've actually expected less and gotten more, so that's always a good thing.
Who and what were some of your influences while writing Feast of Flesh?
My personal influence is always horror movies. Horror movies and a lot of serial killers. I'm one of those, not like a sicko that has the serial killer box set and serial killer T-shirts and all that, but I do study a lot about serial killers, and I have an encyclopedia of serial killers and stuff like that. But mostly it's horror movies. Horror movies, especially the 70s, late 70s, gore and cannibal movies, the stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, the original, but even newer stuff, even the new remakes of Hills Have Eyes, stuff like Wrong Turn, that stuff's always, I always found that, not enough influence comes for those kind of films, especially I call them the Mutants in the Hills or the Mutants in the Woods cannibal movies, or the backwoods, redneck monster cannibal type movies, which is like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Wrong Turn, and I kind of wanted to take that and just do a take on that, and that's what whole entire Bone Gnawer's, theme is.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is pretty awesome. I liked when Franklin rolled down the hill in the wheelchair at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the kind of comedy too that I wanted to come across in Bone Gnawer. It's not all serious. It has a black comedy side to it, very influenced from the original Tobe Hooper Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's horrific, but for some reason you're laughing. Toby did a really great job of making you laugh at scenes like that. When Franklin goes down the hill trying to take a leak and the truck drives by and he rolls down the hill, you're laughing at it, but you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I'm laughing at a crippled guy going down the hill, but that is so fucking funny. And the part when he's in the house and he's throwing a fit when everyone's upstairs and he can't get up the stairs and he's down there and he starts, raspberrying everybody. It's like so sad but hilarious at the time. Yep.
Or when the hitchhiker starts cutting himself in the van, that is pretty amusing.
Yep. And there's just these moments of like, why am I laughing? I shouldn't be laughing at this type moments in Texas Chainsaw Man. And that's why it's one of my favorite films. It's very underrated for the comedy aspect of it. Everyone looks at the horrific aspect of it. Oh, it's so horrific. And actually, compared to nowadays, it's nothing. It's not at all. But it's just a cult classic with me. It's very influential on Bone Gnawer.
Yeah, I got the comedy in that, and Cannibal Cookout I found pretty amusing too. I laughed at that.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole that's pretty much the staple. I guess that's why Terrorizer used that on their recent their sampler, because that's basically the staple band or staple song for the band. I mean that more or less tells you everything in one song what the band's about. From the sound of the music to the lyrics and I mean, we have our more serious songs like, Hammer to the Skull is a very serious, in-your-face, very angry song. But then we have your more comical songs, which are like Cannibal Cookout.
Killjoy from Necrophagia made a guest appearance, as well as Steve from Impetigo. Why did you want them to do guest spots on the album, and how were they to work with?
Always great to work with. I've known these guys for years, and I've always wanted an outlet or some way to work with them. Killjoy's done many, side project bands. Steve-O I've known for years. I've been a big Impetigo fan from the demo days, and I've always followed that band. And Dopey I've known for a couple years now, from back when Mesatizo did a the cover of Corpse Grinder. So I've known all these guys for years, and every one of them they're their own godfather in their own right. You know, Killjoy is the godfather of gore, as well as, you know, Steve-O and Dopey over in Spain. You know, they're all, you know, signature people in the scene for what it is, and I just found that Bonar was the perfect band to be able to use these guys. I mean, there was a couple other people I wanted too, but they just weren't available. But these guys, I was very proud to have these guys be a part of it, and every one of them was like, yeah, I'll do it right away. So it was never like, oh, well, let me think about it. You know, it was all right away. They were all, you know, agreed to do it, and that was a very good thrill to me. That was a big surprise.
You've worked with a lot of different musicians over the years. Who were some of your favorites to work with, and are there any that you haven't worked with that you'd like to work with one day?
Yeah. I mean, I look at, like, I work with anybody. I'm really easy to work with. I don't want to sound like a band whore or anything like that, but I would really work with anybody as long as there's not an ego problem. And would easily work with. I mean, I've wanted to work. I've been wanting to work with Jeff from Possessed for the longest time. I'm good friends with him. I talk to him on MySpace and Facebook all the time. And I've always told him, I said, Jeff, I'm going to have you do something. One day I'm going to have you do some guest vocals with me some way. And Jeff Walker, too, from Carcass. I've always wanted to try and get something. And a lot of the Swedish death metal guys, I really was a big, and still am a big Swedish death metal fan. I mean, to me, that is the best death metal. You know, the old Swedish stuff, you know, the Thomas Skalsbro, you know, Entombed Grave, all those guys. You know, so there's a lot of people out there I would really like to work with.
How does Bonar differ from other bands you've been in, such as Massacre?
First off, everybody's on the same page, and that is really a big, that makes a big difference in any kind of relationship. It doesn't matter if you're in a band or you know, a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. When everyone's on the same page, it's going to work. When everyone's pulling from different sides, it never works. And unfortunately, in my music career, I've always seemed to have been in the bands that are always with other guys pulling from different angles. And I've kind of like had to sit there, bite my tongue, and, you know, bite my lip and take a few steps back and say, okay, I'll just follow you guys' lead. And every time I've done that in my life, I've failed. And I finally, when it came to Bonar, it came to talking to Roga about it. I said, look, this is the way that I want to do things. And Roga said, okay, fine. You have total freedom to do the lyrics and the concepts that you want, as long as I have total freedom to do the music the way I want. And I said, that's great. You know, and if we have any qualms about anything, that we can openly talk about it without anybody having an ego or anyone getting in a fight about it. And this is the first band that I've actually been able to work in where I haven't come across those problems. That everything is freely discussed without there being an anger issue or without somebody getting blown out of proportion or getting their feelings hurt. Unfortunately, too many times in the past, I've worked with people that wear their feelings on their sleeve. And I'm kind of like, I'm kind of a very straightforward kind of person. I'm not going to butter things up and make it all nice for you in presentation. That's what your parents do. That's what your mom does. They're there to comfort you. If you want that, go to them. Sometimes I'm pretty, cut and dry, and I've been called an asshole for it. And I'd rather be called an asshole for that than be called an asshole for being a liar or a cheat or somebody that's going to backstab you. But I'm pretty, I can take corrective criticism, but I find a lot of people can't. And I've been in bands where people couldn't take the corrective criticism, especially guitar players. Guitar players seem to have a problem with taking corrective criticism. And I'm the kind of person who will tell you, hey, man, that sucks. There's no, I don't beat around the bush. I'm not trying to tell you, oh, you should chew this. If it sucks, I'm going to tell you. And I think a lot of guitar players have had a hard time dealing with that kind of person that I am. I have that personality where I just come straight out and just tell you, it sucks, it sucks. I don't like it, it sucks, let's change it, or let's do something about it. And I have always had problems with guitar players throwing their hands up in the air, having a hissy fit, and having a cowl and going, doing the whole crybaby thing, and doing the rock star thing. I can't stand you, don't like my stuff, well, fuck you, get out of my band. Yep.
Yeah, that's the way to be, though. You got to be honest and straightforward with people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.